and your coffee connection. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'll let you, or maybe let me know, or everyone, if you can make sure that I am sharing my screen. Can you all see the slide deck?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So you've all seen the title, and maybe you've heard of both of these, or one of them, or none, but whichever it may be, it could be a refresher for you or something new. And I'm really intrigued by these topics, and I think you'll find that these are topics that you can apply to your life, even starting today. So we will go to, the next slide. So we'll start first with the blue zones. You might be wondering, what are these? Where are they? How did they come about? And they were started by this gentleman, Dan Buettner. He was a National Geographic explorer. He's got 3 Guinness Book of World Records for endurance cycling. And he had the idea to team up with researchers through National Geographic and head around the world to find where people live the happiest, the healthiest, and the longest. And they found specific areas of the world, some longevity hotspots, and they drew a blue circle around them. And these became known as the blue zones. And there's 5 of these blue zones, and we will talk a bit longer about them. It's become quite a sensation over the last, I'd say, 15 years or so. This is a book on the blue zones. There's many books, actually, recipe books. There's now been a movement to have blue zones created throughout this country. We'll talk more about that as well. So this is one of the blue zones. This is Caria, Greece. And this island was featured in an article in the New York Times. It was titled "The Island Where People Forget to Die." It was an intriguing title. Memorable story about this gentleman in particular. His name is Stamatis Mouraitis. He was a Greek war veteran, and he came to the USA for treatment of a combat mangled arm. He had survived a gunshot wound, escaped to Turkey, and talked his way onto the Queen Elizabeth, and settled in an area of New York where he had some others from Icaria. Then he moved to Boynton Beach, Florida, and married a Greek-American woman, had 3 children, and pretty much just lived his life until one day in 1976, he fell short of breath. So he sought out his doctor, and his doctor unfortunately diagnosed him with lung cancer. 9 other doctors concluded as well, and they gave him about 9 months to live. And at the time, he was in his mid-60s. So Mouraitis considered staying in the States and seeking aggressive cancer treatment at a local hospital to be close to his adult children. But then he decided that he would return to Icaria to be buried with his ancestors in a cemetery shaded by oak trees that overlooked the Aegean Sea. He figured a funeral would cost thousands in the US, where only about $200 in Icaria. It'll leave more money to his wife for retirement savings. And so they returned to Icaria, and they moved in with his elderly parents in a tiny little house, 2 acres of vineyards. And he spent the first days of being there with his wife and his mother attending to him. He'd be in bed. And then he started to connect with his faith, and he'd hobble up the hill to a tiny Greek Orthodox chapel where his grandfather was once a priest. And his childhood friends started discovering that he was home, and they'd visit him, and they'd show up every afternoon, and they'd talk for hours, and it often involved a bottle or wine or 2 of locally produced wine. And he thought, well, if he's going to die, he might as well die happy. And so then something strange happened. In the ensuing months, he started to feel stronger, and he started to plant some vegetables in the garden. And he didn't expect to live to see them harvest, but he figured he really enjoyed being in the sun and breathing the ocean air. And his wife could enjoy the vegetables after he was gone. So 6 months came and went, and Mouraitis did not die. He instead continued to garden, work on his family vineyards, kind of eased himself into the island routine, which consisted of waking up when he felt like it, working in the vineyards until mid-afternoon, making him lunch, taking a nap, and then in the evenings he would walk to a local tavern and play dominoes past midnight. So years passed, continued to have his health improve, added some rooms to his parents' house so his kids can visit. And then in 2012, when this article was written, 3.5 decades later, he was 97 years old, although he claims that he was 102. He was cancer-free, had not gone through any traditional chemotherapy or anything like that. And he was asked how he thinks he recovered from lung cancer. And his response was, it just went away. And he said that he actually had gone back to America 25 years after moving to Icaria and wanted to see if the doctors can explain what happened. But he said they had all passed away. So they've asked people in Icaria, how they managed to live past 90, and they'll usually talk about the clean air or the wine. But they interviewed one 100-year-old woman, and she just put it as with a shrug and said that they just forget to die. So hence the name of the title of this article. And some things about Icaria. Icarian men are 4 times as likely as American men to reach 90, often in better health. They live 8 to 10 years longer before succumbing to typical diseases like cancer and cardiovascular disease. Suffer less depression, a quarter rate of dementia. And as you heard in the story, people stay up late, they wake up late, they take naps. Most families have a garden, so they're really into gardening and moving throughout the day. They're often socializing with local wine. And if they have any money left over, it's given to the poor. It's not a me place, it's an S place. And then very characteristic of the Blue Zones, as you'll see, it's plant-based. There's an absence of sugar and white flour. A huge part of their diet is beans, especially lentils and garbanzos specific to Icaria. Potatoes, greens, olive oil, bread, goat's milk, and coffee. So appropriate for the coffee connection today. And then a mountain tea they have daily along with honey, which provides them some medicinal properties. So Dan Buettner said, it's difficult to change individual behaviors when community behaviors stay the same. The factors that encourage longevity reinforce one another over the long term. For people to adopt a healthy lifestyle, they need to live in an ecosystem that makes it possible. The power of such environment lies in the mutually reinforcing relationships among lots of small nudges and default choices. I think the villages of San Mateo County is really along the lines of these teachings. So the original Blue Zones, we talked about Icaria, Greece. There's also Barbagia region of Sardinia in Italy, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, Okinawa, Japan, and actually here in Loma Linda, California. It's the Seventh-day Adventist population. So this gives you a little bit more of a visual of where these Blue Zones are. And just to touch on a few characteristics, we have in Okinawa, Japan, they predominantly, some of their foods are tofu, miso, fermented foods, ginger, turmeric, and the females there, over 70, are the longest lived population in the world. Then you have in the Nicoya Peninsula, you have some of the lowest rates of middle-age mortality and the second highest concentration of male centenarians. And they are known to have water with a very high calcium content, so it keeps their bones strong. And their diet consists quite a bit of squash, corns, beans, tortillas. And then you have as well, we did speak a bit about Icaria already, the world's lowest rates of middle-age mortality and lowest rates of dementia. Then you have in Loma Linda, California, this is the highest concentration of Seventh-day Adventists, and they live 10 years longer than their North American counterparts. And their diet consists of mostly vegetarian, a lot of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and nuts. And then in Sardinia, they have a special sourdough bread. They eat some sheep cheese and beans and other greens as well. It's a mountainous highlands area of Inner Sardinia and the world's highest concentration of male centenarians. And this is one of the Seventh-day Adventists. I love this picture. Can't say I've ever been able to do that myself. So the one real big discovery was that all these Blue Zones had something in common, and they found 9 particular characteristics. And so we'll delve into each of these just a bit more. So the first one is that they move naturally. The longest lived people do not pump iron, they don't run marathons or go to the gym. Instead, they're in environments that constantly nudge them into moving without really thinking about it. They have their gardens, so they're constantly moving around, and they don't have the typical mechanical conveniences that we do for house and yard work. So the second power 9 is purpose. The Okinawans have an expression, a mantra, ikigai, and this means basically the reason for being. It's a mantra that really is the reason why they wake up in the morning. And as well as in the Nicoya Peninsula, it's the plan de vida. So this reason for living. And this purpose, knowing your sense of purpose, can be worth up to 7 years of extra life expectancy. It's pretty profound. The next in the Power 9 is downshift. So each of the blue zones have some way to downregulate, to relax and recover, renew. The Seventh-day Adventists, they pray and they have a 24 hours of their observed Sabbath. Icarians take their naps, Sardinians do happy hours. Okinawans take some moments each day to remember their ancestors. And in all blue zones, they're sleeping about 8 to 10 hours as well. The next of the Power 9 is this 80% rule. The Okinawans call this Hare Hachi Bu. And this is a mantra said before meals that reminds them to stop eating when their stomachs are 80% full. And this 20% gap between not being hungry and being full can actually be the difference between losing weight or gaining. And generally those in the blue zones are eating their smallest meal in the late afternoon and early evening and not eating anything else the rest of the day. So we touched on this a little bit. All of the blue zones are predominantly plant-based, and they all share these 4 foods in common: beans, they eat quite a lot of beans, greens, whole grains, and nuts. Some other of the beans that they eat are fava, black, soy, and lentils. And if they eat meat, it's really a small serving and only a certain, maybe about 4 to 5 times a month. And this gives you a visual, what their diet mostly consists of. This, along with other resources I put in the slide deck, you're welcome to tap into after the talk if you want to learn more. There's just so much to learn about each of these blue zones, really fascinating. So you'll see here that it's mostly plant-based, beans, and they're drinking water, coffee, tea, wine in moderation, snacking on nuts. And then you'll see for weekly, they're really limiting their eggs, some fish, very low on sugar. If it's dairy, it's generally actually of goats or sheep. And then again, the meat is just a very small amount and very seldom. So the next Power 9 is wine at 5. All of the blue zones, except for the Seventh-day Adventists, consume some moderate amount of alcohol, but it's generally with friends or family, and most always with food. The next of the Power 9 is belong. Almost all of the blue zones have some type of faith-based community. Denomination doesn't seem to matter. And research shows that attending faith-based services 4 times a month can actually add 4 to 14 years of life expectancy. Second to last of the Power 9 is loved ones first. Successful centenarians put their families first, often keeping aging parents and grandparents close by or in the home. And lastly is right tribe. The longest lived people either were born into or they choose their social circles, and these circles support healthy behaviors. And this picture here is of the Okinawans, and these groups are called Moais, 5 friends that commit to each other for life. And probably all familiar with the Framingham studies, and they show that smoking, obesity, happiness, even loneliness are contagious. So having social networks that have healthy behaviors can really have an impact and be contagious as well. And as I alluded to, there are Blue Zones projects. Actually, it's been over the number of years that they've tried to emulate this throughout the country. So there are cities, and actually Monterey County has part of this. They've been doing this for a number of years. And any city can apply to become a Blue Zone. And you have to go through a whole process and have support and sponsors. But it really involves all aspects, from government to restaurants to schools to businesses. And it's about really creating an environment that makes the healthy choice the easy choice. This picture is very inviting. I love this. I put this here as a reference. If you'd like to, you can click on these highlighted links here, and it's a 4-week challenge that you can participate in at any time. And it has 4 weeks to it: eat wisely, move naturally, right tribe, and right outlook. You can as well take this true vitality test or the true happiness test, and these are linked as well. And then here is a list. There's just no end to resources on Blue Zones. And I think if you find this interesting at all, there's just so much more that you can learn and be inspired by. So moving topics just a bit, although a lot of the Blue Zones are surrounded by water, this next concept, Blue Mind, is one that I hadn't heard about. I think maybe it's been about a year or so that I came across this, and I've just been really inspired and intrigued by, and I think you might as well. So my first question to you is, what's your water? What is the first water that you think of? Maybe it's a childhood memory, water that has been your go-to, that you really enjoyed throughout your lifetime, or maybe something new. It could be a lake, a river. This is here, the San Mateo coastline. You're probably this looks familiar to all of you. It could be the blue waters of the Caribbean, maybe some fountains like here in San Mateo County, or maybe even your bathtub. This is the actor Jack Black. So just giving you that image that you've got water right, just within inches of you probably right now that you can partake in. And my sister and I, we grew up close to here, and this is Mount Tamalpais, one of the lakes, as well as, close proximity to San Francisco and the bay and the ocean. So water's been quite an influence on us. And then here, this is sunset from close to where I live now. So Blue Mind this concept was created by Dr. Wallace J. Nichols. He goes by Jay. He actually lives in Carmel. And he is a marine biologist. He's got some TED Talks on all about rescuing and preserving sea turtles. And that was a big part of his life. And throughout, there was this thread of water and connection with water. And so he really became very passionate and focused on the connection that we have with water and how this can enhance our health and happiness. So this book came out about 8 years ago. So it's called Blue Mind, the surprising science that shows how being near, in, on, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do. And there's really a science now, the Blue Mind science, the study of aquatic environments' health benefits. It's an emerging field of research of health and wellness practices. So what is Blue Mind science? It can be broken down into these 3 areas. Red Mind, and this is connotated more so with chronic stress, being agitated, distracted. It's easy to do these days with a lot of different technology and devices. Being anxious, not our best selves, overconnected, overstimulated, and it can be the base state of our society. And we do need some of this red mind to be productive and be motivated, but too much can be toxic, of course. And then gray mind, this is affiliated with burnout, fatigue, and depression. And then blue mind, this is related and correlated with the sense of well-being, and it's really our default mode. It's our sense of creativity and happiness, feeling peaceful, insightful, and productive. So Jay Nichols recommends that we all hit this blue reset button, and often. And this can be water in any form, kind of as I spoke to before. It can be a body of water that you might have close to you or that you visit. It could be your swimming pool. It could be the sound of a fountain. It can actually even be just technology, listening to or looking at sounds and sights of water. There's something about being in the water and swimming, which alters my mood, gets my thoughts going as no one else can, nothing else can. Theories and stories would construct themselves in my mind as I swam to and fro or round and round. Sentences and paragraphs would write themselves in my mind, and at such times I would have to come to the shore every so often to discharge them. And this is Oliver Sacks, physician, professor of neurology, and best-selling author. He's known to have a pen and pad of paper close to where he would swim. So we have a biological affinity to water. As we all know, we need it to survive. And we consist quite a bit of water. We're about 60% of our body is water, and about 73% of our brain is water. And our brain prefers the color blue to all other colors. So we receive a lot of benefits from water: cognitive, emotional, physical. It can increase our ability to focus, and just being close to water, seeing it, can fill our brain with feel-good hormones and lower our stress hormone. And we really are attracted to these blue open spaces that can help us relax. And I found it really interesting. There was a neuroscientist at University of California, San Francisco, and he said that the brain is always trying to record and interpret the meaning of things and events. And in a natural environment, on or near the water, there's this high degree of predictability. And the background is not like a busy street where there's changes from moment to moment. With water, what we see is fairly controlled, and this allows part of our brain to relax. And then as we're watching the water, our brain continues to search for something that wasn't there before. It's kind of an element of survival. And when we notice that there's a disturbance on the surface, like on a wave, you might see a bird or a dolphin, there's a sense of surprise and novelty, which is accompanied by a pleasurable hit of dopamine. And because the bodies of water change and stay the same simultaneously, we can experience something soothing with familiarity, and also have it be stimulating. So I think it's really interesting that you can get both from water in such a profound way. Water can also give us a sense of awe and wonder, and there's quite a lot of research actually with awe, which I think is really fascinating, that just this experience can be setting off this neurological cascade of events in our bodies instantly. So it can boost compassion, can reduce cortisol and inflammation, can enhance our immune system. And right now with this pandemic, we can definitely all use to enhance our immune system. Can reduce our heart rate, promote creativity, provide a sense of solitude, relaxation, creating connection. And there's this concept of shifting from a me to a we perspective. It is life, I think, to watch the water. A man can learn so many things, by Nicholas Sparks. So we all know that planet Earth was referred to as the blue marble. And Jay Nichols actually travels with blue marbles, and he gives them out at his TED Talks, and anyone that he sees, and recommends that people hold on to it for a time and then they pass it on to others to spread this concept of blue mind. So putting on a blue filter can be very helpful to us, seeing water and having an affiliation to it. Some neurosurgeons wear blue filtered glasses while they're operating on brains to help them remove the red signals. This helps calm them by seeing blue instead of red. Water therapy, some of you may be familiar with the different types of therapy through water. This is actually a post last year during the height of the pandemic. This is in Barcelona. And this gentleman here is named Correa. He had gone into intensive care, it says here, on April 14th, and he had come out. He said he will begin his journey to recovery inside the hospital, but first, sand, sun, and sea. Live in the sunshine, swim in the sea, drink in the wild air, by Emerson. So I think this is quite a shot to see this kind of recovery from COVID-19. And this just shows you the image, just, how powerful water can be. It really can be our medicine. And there's a lot of research being done in this area. And one of the organizations called Blue Health, this is in Europe, and they are investigating the link between environment, climate, and health. So some really interesting information coming out of that, and how we can create blue space environments and access to enhance our well-being. This is a Stanford virtual human interactive lab. So this shows you, visual what you can do to interact with water, what's possible with virtual reality without even leaving your home. This is something I created for some clients. These are both linked to some live cams at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And they have these images, actually live images of sea life with nice music, calming music in the background. And this quote here says, "The mind is like water. When it's turbulent, it's difficult to see. When it's calm, everything becomes clear. And Vincent van Gogh said, the heart of man is very much like the sea. It has its storms, it has its tides, and in its depths, it has its pearls too. So continuation of this water therapy with wounded veterans. Down here in San Diego, we have surf camp for special needs kids. I've helped out with that. It's really pretty amazing to see the transformation that kids go through and their families with their interaction with water. And actually, I should mention with the wounded veteran water therapy that it really is taken in all of our senses. And they have found, there's actually a program called Heroes on the Water, where they've helped more than 3,000 wounded warriors and veterans relax, rehabilitate, and reintegrate them. And they've found that there's just these different aspects from physical, that can be paddling on the water, occupational, they're learning new skills, and then mentally, they have this freedom and relaxation of being on the water. So the good memories from a day on the water can help override the bad memories. Can be an expression of and celebration of life. And you can also have a connection to water and this sense of blue mind through art. This is actually an artist in Southern California. You can have this through music, and this slide is actually linked to this song called Blue Mind. It says, remember when you were only a child, start to see with your blue mind. So it's here if you'd like to listen to it. You can connect to Blue Mind through poetry. This is a poem by Mary Oliver called Breakage. I go down to the edge of the sea, how everything shines in the morning light, the cusp of the whelk, the broken cupboard of the clam, the open blue mussels, moon snails, pale pink and barnacle scarred, and nothing at all whole or shut, but tattered, split, dropped by the gulls onto the gray rocks and all the moisture gone. It's like a schoolhouse of little words, thousands of words. First you figure out what each one means by itself. The jingle, the periwinkle, the scallop, full of moonlight. Then you begin slowly to read the whole story. And you can experience Blue Mind through video. We talked a little bit about before about a virtual connection. This slide is actually linked to, I think it's 24 hours of ocean sounds. And Jay Nichols says here, get in the water, walk along the water, move across its surface, get under it, sit in it, leap into it, listen to it, touch the water, close your eyes, and drink a big glass. Fall more deeply in love with water in all its shapes, colors, and forms. Let it heal you and make you a better, stronger version of yourself. You need water, and water needs you. So the main question to think about maybe from today in regards to Blue Mind is how you can connect with water more in your day. And there are some opportunities coming up. Jay Nichols is going on his 8th year of reading his book on Facebook live, a few pages each night. And it actually starts this Sunday, January 24th at 5:30 p.m. And he's just a great guy. I've had the chance to speak with him myself, and so personable and just really interesting. And he engages those that participate in a discussion as well. And I think you might find this really enjoyable. And you don't have to have a book to be a part of it. You can just listen in. Jay Nichols is also doing a year of Blue Mind. So on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, and you can actually, I think, just look this up online if you don't have access on your own account. I think it's open to everyone. He is doing it every single day. He's posting a picture or some kind of image related to Blue Mind, along with a quote or some type of writing. And this one here says, I could never stay long enough on the shore. The tang of the untainted, fresh and free sea air was like a cool, quieting thought. It's by Helen Keller. So if you'd like to take part in that, he's going to be doing this every day this year of 2021. So it should be fun to see what he puts up. And then just in the last week, he created this free little Blue Mind library. It's next to an alley that leads to and from the beach stairs in Carmel by the Sea. I've not been there, but should be fun to come across this. And it has his signed Blue Mind books, the blue marbles that I mentioned, and some stickers and some CDs. And there's a guest book that you can sign as well. Along with that, there's some resources here, include some links to his TED Talks, as well as other information on Blue Mind. And he's got a site and a Patreon page too, if you wanted to get more involved. And I'll leave you with the call to action to get to your water in whatever way that might be. And with that, you can open it up probably to questions if there are any.
Great. So if you have a question, you can either use the raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask your question.
And I would add, if anyone wants to offer up either in the chat or to unmute themselves and share what their favorite connection with water is, or if they incorporate the blue zones in any way into their life already, or any personal experiences.
Well, first, I think I'm unmuted. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. First, thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
For this presentation, and Devorah, how neat that you had this wealth of knowledge in your family so close at hand that you could bring to us by Zoom. Sure, this is fascinating. Have you found that Blue Mind philosophy or the Blue Places habits have changed your life?
Oh, for sure. It's funny, I actually heard about the blue zones, I guess it's been over 15 years or so. I think it was 2003 that Dan Buettner teamed up with the researchers and they published, I think it was 2005, they published it in the National Geographic. But I had heard him speak on Oprah so many years ago and I was just fascinated. And we grew up, my sister and I, my dad is vegan and my parents are both healthy and very active and going on hikes. When I read about the Seventh-day Adventists, they go on hikes all the time in the hills. So related to that. And then with water, I didn't realize actually how much water affected me until I went to school at Davis and I asked where the water was, the closest water. And there was like, they said a little creek and like an hour away, there was a lake. And I thought, oh my gosh, because we grew up surrounded by water. And, being here in San Diego, Encinitas, I didn't realize it actually until I read the book Blue Mind and became familiar that I was going out to the water at least once a day. I had to get to the water, even if I had a full day of work and it was later, even if it was dark outside, I needed to at least just see the water, be by it, ideally be, walking by it on a beach walk or something. And I didn't really realize the extent of what that meant, that water, even just going into a shower. And you hear a lot of famous people, people and leaders in politics sharing that when they go into a shower, you just get these ideas. And so there's something about that, obviously relaxation, the water on your skin, and this kind of interaction with water that we all, I think, just kind of know instinctively, and we just do naturally, many of us, can really enhance our health. I know for me, just getting to the ocean is, instantly relaxing as well as invigorating. So yeah, it's been an interesting experience to learn more about this, because I think it's something that, again, that we maybe all have done to some extent, but then also to now make this, an important part of a daily life, to make sure that you have some connection of water. I mean, he said even taking a glass of water, and nourishing your body with water and having that connection. So it can be really small or big, depending on, what you have accessible to you.
Mira is a trained water expert. She can always find the whales that are breaching and dolphins that are jumping. I don't know, it feels like it's weekly.
It's pretty fun. Well, you have it up there in the Bay Area too. I mean, I've seen a whale from the Golden Gate Bridge breaching. So there's just so much out there for all of us. And even if you don't get out to see that, I think in your back, obviously you've got the fountains that I showed you in San Mateo, and you maybe even have at your own house, you have a fountain or one install, something that can bring that water element to you. And then the blue zones, of course, we have access, hopefully, to this community. This is the villages of San Mateo County. That's a community in itself, and can talk like this and coming together and discussing ideas can reinforce those kind of healthy practices. And the book club that you just mentioned. So the blue zones is all about, they don't have a word for retirement. They're just constantly learning and constantly driven by their purpose.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't live by the water. I mean, we used to have our vacations at Sea Ranch all the time, every
Oh,
summer.
yeah.
Now I'm a widow. I have no car. There's no water around. What about these beautiful movies that,
Yes, yes,
and, you have movies about the ocean,
right.
is that a substitute?
Oh, there's research on this. It's done not even just with water, but with green. They've shown like when you have greenery around you, so it could even be a plant or a tree, and there's lots of nutrients that we get from that as well. But they showed with the green as well as with the blue, it's an enhanced reaction in the brain. They've done studies with people, electrodes on their brain to see this. But yes, for sure, anything that's a sight of water, and if it's a movie or film, I think for sure that there's definitely benefits there that you have, yes, on your TV, on your phone, on your computer, even just listening to sounds. My sister, actually, our younger sister, she plays ocean sounds for my niece, my almost 3-year-old niece, on the Alexa that goes throughout the night. So lots of different ways that you can connect, just even, yes, through technology. It's, virtual sense, and there is a lot of research showing that that does have an effect, and maybe even just as effective.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question.
There is also some small little water garden fountains that can be purchased too, that make a nice relaxing bubbly sound, but they're
Right.
dish garden size.
Yeah, exactly. Affordable. Yeah, for sure. I've seen those before. They're really nice. Yeah, I think we're taken in with all your different senses. So you're hearing, you might be seeing, you might be feeling if you're touching it, tasting it. So all these different things can heighten our awareness and the benefits that we have.
The benefits of a hot tub after a day of work too.
Yes, for sure. I actually just had put together a presentation on sleep for my work, and there is something about taking a bath or a shower before bed, and it's actually lowering your body temperature. I thought it would be raising it, but it lowers your body temperature and actually helps you sleep better, fall asleep easier. Anyone have favorite water stories or connect with water in a certain way that they want to share? Any place in the Bay Area that you love to go to for water, or favorite spots?
This is Renata. Just recently we went down to the Redwood City Harbor, so you can just walk along.
Yeah.
Walk with it. It's very nice, and it's flat. It's easy to walk. So I enjoy doing that if I don't have time to drive all the way to Half Moon Bay. So
That's great.
Easy.
For sure. Yeah, and Half Moon Bay is really nice too. I love Montera.
Right.
Spot. Any other memorable water stories or connections with the Blue Zones? Has anyone been to any of those Blue Zones?
I'd read about Loma Linda. I didn't realize it was part of an overall theme, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really fascinating that it's here. And I think it's really interesting to see how they're really emulating this in other parts of the country too. And in Monterey County, you probably can learn quite a bit of what's going on there. And the statistics, or the results of the Blue Zones that they've already done throughout the states, showing just with health risk going down, and obesity numbers down, and communities coming together, and especially in areas maybe where it wasn't safe to walk, and they're making it so that there's more walkability. Lots of different interesting outcomes.
That
Seeing there's a
seems to be
CD
the
for-
highest, the largest group that comes to the ukulele gatherings also, as a huge contingency from Loma Linda.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
and a larger percentage than any other area that when we have the big camp out.
Yeah, they're very close knit community, just like many of the Blue Zones. And I think, Yeah, there's that common theme, and it's saying that maybe even the social benefits outweigh all the rest of it. I mean, I think it's still good to eat well and to do those other things and to move naturally, but that social element, I think, and for all of you here that are on Zoom, I think this is part of this, to continue that kind of connection so that we're not so isolated, especially during this pandemic or even just normally throughout our daily lives.
Hi, I take my walks along the Bay Trail that starts from Millbrae along Bayshore Drive, and it's called the Bay Trail all the way to Burlingame.
Oh,
It's
wow.
along the bay that overlooks the airport, but it's quite a good walk and hike, and it's flat all the way. It goes
Yeah.
around from Millbrae to Burlingame to almost to Coyote Point. And
That's
it's
really
a very
nice.
nice walk. And there's a little park at the end of where that big hotel is.
I
And
think
you
I've
can
been
sit,
there.
there's a little park that you can sit on, and there's a little pier, just a little one, but it's exhilarating and refreshing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds so nice. You just that visual, it takes you right there.
Mhm.
That's great.
And it's quite a safe trail.
That's good.
Sarah, what about the specifics related to water exercise? Like I'm a swimmer and I do stand-up paddle boarding.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Yeah. Any connection that you have with water, I think there's something as well. They talk about being submersed in it too. And I was reading too as well, that especially when you're underwater, you can't, well, I guess you could, some people can take these waterproof devices now, underwater, and certainly cameras, people can take pictures, but a lot of people talk about how it's the one place, and Jay Knuckles actually had talked about it too, that it's the one place that you can just go and completely just be in the moment. And a lot of surfers will talk about that too, and probably know from paddleboarding as well. It just takes all those other distractions and you're just completely submersed in that. And Jane Nichols, I will share, who wrote this book, Blue Mind, he's actually working on a couple other projects and books, but he had lost his wife and him and his daughters. They lost their home that they built from the ground up, all environmentally, with every little detail put into it. They lost their home in Davenport last summer in the Santa Cruz fires. And he still is so passionate about this, spreading this, joy and information about Blue Mind. And he goes out, that's where he gets his, refuge, goes to the water, and is still finding that to be, his, sense of reconnecting with the water and providing that well-being. So I think it's really definitely a great example being put to practice. Great questions and comments and shares.
There's one other thing I'd like to share, and that is I'm from Germany, and there is a, well, I guess he was a doctor. He developed all kinds of water therapies, and the name is Kneipp. It's spelled K-N-E-I-P. And those are also things that you could do at home with a shower. It's just a certain way of showering, putting the water over your body. And I don't know that much, well, I don't remember that much about it, but if anybody's interested, you could just look that up. I'm sure you can find it in Wikipedia or wherever.
Neat.
That's just,
that sounds interesting.
related to this. Yeah, and it's very old. This is like these therapies were developed at least 100 years ago. So.
Neat. That's great. Yeah, I know it's hard for some people too. With right now, it's not having access to community pools or not things that were normally our outlets. So we're having to improvise.
I have a couple of comments. One is that I see at least 1, 2, 3, 4 people here that I know have water stories they could tell. Harriet Anderson in particular, she has the tropical background. And Harriet, not to put you on the spot, but do you want to say anything about your experience with water? You'd have to unmute first, so we'll let you work on that. And then the other people are Frank. You've got a Puerto Vallarta connection.
I think he's on mute.
You'd have to unmute.
Devor, can you unmute him?
You're still on
he's
mute.
unmuted,
There
yeah.
you go.
Puerto Vallarta. Are you asking me about that?
Yeah, well, it's a water place, of course, and you must have been attracted to it.
Yeah, it's, it's beautiful to sit in your room and watch the ocean, maybe watch whales go by. And they have, even have a lazy river if you want to go that far. And we get on an inner tube and sail around. And I have a son that's a veterinarian who specialized in tropical fish, and he's in Guam with
Wow.
a practice that looks out over the water. So,
Wow, that sounds ideal. Really nice. It's reminding me, I don't know if any of you are on Instagram, but I tend to follow a lot of people, especially photographers or videographers that, you know, are out by the water all day long. I've seen these boat trips out of the coast here in Southern California. They go out for 8 to 12 hours at a time. And so they're seeing lots of different sea life or scenery, and they're posting their video or their picture. So that's another outlet too. If you are on your computer, you can, you know, follow people or look at videos, and that takes you right there as well.
when my wife was alive, she collected a lot of blue dishes, and
Blue dishes?
yeah,
I love it.
that was her favorite color all over the house.
Really?
And-
There's something to that. They're saying that was something about the blue color. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
also we replaced a fish pond with a waterfall in our backyard.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, Devor and I have a couple relatives, one that built in Colorado, Fort Collins. He built a kind of like a stream and river at Devor in front of his house. And then our uncle, he put this huge waterfall together, like brought in boulders in a little suburb in Chicago, Deerfield, Illinois. I don't think anyone had seen anything quite like that. One of the rushing sounds of the river in his backyard.
Yeah. And she liked the sound. That was the reason. So
That's great. Well, I encourage, for you all to continue sharing your stories, and maybe even you can create, you know, groups to connect with the ideas of the blue zones and blue mind. And maybe when things get a little bit safer with the pandemic being maybe the vaccinations and all this, maybe people can meet up for a nice walk along the water and partake in some of that.
Yeah, Mira, it's good timing because to learn about it, to think about it, because Villages of San Mateo recently became a bigger family with the Village of the Coast Side. And so once things open up, then I think we'll all be even more motivated to see our friends at the coast and let them share the wonders of the water, the coast side, and their favorite places with us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, for those that came out on your own visiting the coast in San Mateo, you know, if you're socially distancing or just by yourself and you got your mask on, then you can still, you know, enjoy that.
Great.
I think so. I don't know that there's not really a strict shelter in place, I don't think right now, right? I think you can still get out to the coast, hopefully there.
Mhm.
Well, it's been great to speak with all of you, and thanks for being a part of this. I'll send Devor, I'll send you the link to the slide deck. So if anyone wants to click on some of those links in there and look up other resources, there's just a lot that you can tap into. It's really fun.
Thank you
I'll
very
send that to you.
much.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mira.
Bye.
so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
Thank
day.
you
and-
very much. It's very
Yeah.
helpful.
Oh, good. Well, hope you all connect with water in some way today that brings you a smile.
I'm going to go and wash my face.
Perfect.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Leave.
Devorah.
All right, should I close out the Zoom call? And I'll go ahead and share the video too once we put that on YouTube. Okay.
Okay. Hey, thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Vera. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Everyone, thank you so much. Thanks for your
Bye.
contributions. Bye.
Bye.